Her father offered me an envelope. 5,000. To leave her. I didn't even know we were having lunch, let alone that it would be the moment my entire relationship would start to unravel. Her dad texted me out of nowhere that morning. Let's grab a bite. Just us. I don't like the guy, never have. Too polished, too calculating. He shakes your hand like he's making a deal he already knows you'll lose. But I said yes. Because he's her father. Because I thought, stupidly, that maybe this was him trying. Maybe, finally, after 2 years of looking at me like I tracked mud through his daughter's future, he tried to meet me halfway. So I put on my cleanest polo, wiped the grease from under my nails, and met him at this bougie Italian place downtown. The kind where they don't have prices on the menu and the waiter talks like he's in a goddamn play. I felt out of place the second I walked in. He was already seated. Crisp blazer, glass of wine, that smug half-smile he always wears like a mask. Good of you to come, he said, and I nodded, sat down, tried to play it cool. We small-talked for a bit. How's work? How's the weather? How's my daughter? All of it felt like setup. And then, just as the waiter placed our entrees down, he slid an envelope across the table like we were doing some back-alley deal. I didn't touch it. Just stared. There's 5,000 in there, he said. Not a lot, I know. But I figured it's enough to get you through the transition. If you walk away now, it'll be clean. No drama. She doesn't need to know. I swear, for a second, I thought I misheard him. My brain couldn't wrap around the words. Excuse me? I asked, even though I'd heard him crystal clear. He leaned in slightly, like he was telling me a secret. She's brilliant, you know. Top of her field. She has a future. And while I'm sure you're a good man, this, whatever this is, has an expiration date. Better it ends now. With a bit of help. No hard feelings. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. My fork was frozen midair. I looked at the envelope. White, thick, slightly creased from being in his coat pocket. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to flip the table. I wanted to punch that condescending look right off his face. But mostly, I wanted to disappear. Because in that exact moment, something inside me cracked. Not just because he saw me as disposable, but because, deep down, a part of me wondered if he was right. I'm a guy who works with his hands. I come home with sore knuckles and a dirty shirt. I didn't go to college. I don't know how to talk about Roth IRAs or wine pairings. I've never owned a passport. What if she really was outgrowing me and just hadn't realized it yet? What if I was just convenient? I don't know how long I sat there. Probably too long. He eventually cleared his throat and said, "No pressure. Think it over. You care about her, right? Then do what's best for her." And with that, he stood up and left. Left me with cold pasta and a white envelope sitting like a landmine in front of me. I didn't touch it. I paid for my own meal and left. Didn't take the envelope. But I haven't stopped thinking about it since. I didn't tell her. Not that day, not the next. I kept thinking I'd find the right moment, the right tone, the right way to say, "Hey, your dad offered me cash to disappear from your life." But there's no right way to say that. So I stayed quiet. She was making breakfast the next morning, barefoot in my hoodie, dancing to some stupid pop song in the kitchen, and I just watched her like an outsider in my own life. She looked so happy, so unaware. And I felt like a fraud. Every time she touched my arm or kissed my cheek, I flinched a little inside. Not because of her, but because I was now seeing us through his eyes. Her laugh sounded too bright for me. Her books on urban design scattered on our table felt like they belonged to someone in a different orbit. I started noticing things I'd never seen before. The way she always apologized for where I worked when introducing me to her colleagues. He's an HVAC, but he's so smart, you'd never know. Or how she hesitated when I asked if I should come to her company mixer next month. "It's mostly people from the firm, babe, really boring, you'd hate it." Before I brushed it off. Now it stung. Every offhand comment, every pause. It built something ugly inside me. I started working longer hours, picking up weekend jobs. Told her we were slow and I needed the extra cash, but that was a lie. I just didn't want to be home. I didn't want to see her kindness, because it made me feel worse. Like I was stealing time that didn't belong to me. The envelope haunted me. I didn't take it, but I thought about it constantly. I'd replay the lunch in my head on loop. His voice, so calm. If you walk away now, it'll be clean. What if he was doing me a favor? What if $5,000 now saved me from years of watching her slowly realize she settled? One night, I found myself Googling salaries of people in her field. I don't know why. I guess I needed to know the size of the gap between our worlds. And it was big. Bigger than I thought. I never cared about that before. But now it felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, and she was already halfway across a bridge I couldn't see. I started snapping more. Picking stupid fights. You think I'm not good enough, don't you? She blinked, confused, hurt. Where is this coming from? I couldn't tell her. I didn't want to give her father the satisfaction of knowing he'd gotten to me. But he had. And it was eating me alive. One night, we were lying in bed, and she rolled over, resting her head on my chest. I'm really happy, she said. I feel like we're finally building something real. And I just stared at the ceiling, wondering how the hell you build something real on top of a crack that big. I finally told someone, Noah, my oldest friend. We've known each other since high school, before jobs and girlfriends and the bullshit that makes adulthood so goddamn complicated. He's the kind of guy who calls it like it is, no sugar, no filter. We were sitting in the back of his truck, parked behind the bar we always used to hit up after work, a couple of cheap beers between us. I hadn't planned on saying anything. But then he asked, You good? You've been off, man. And it just came out. I told him everything, the lunch, the envelope, the way I can't look at her the same anymore. He didn't even blink. Just took a sip and said, So did you take the money? No, I said. But I haven't exactly been the same since. He nodded slowly, then leaned back against the cab. Well, that's because the bastard didn't just offer you money. He offered you a version of yourself you've been trying to outrun your whole life. I didn't get it at first. So he kept going. He didn't just say you weren't good enough. He said you were exactly who you're afraid you are. And that shit sticks. But you know what? He's wrong. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But I felt like I'd been carrying a mirror ever since that lunch, and no matter how I turned it, the reflection always made me feel smaller. So what do I do? I asked. He shrugged. Depends. You love her? Yeah. God, yeah? Then tell her the truth. If she loves you, she'll stand beside you. If she doesn't, better to know now. That hit hard. Because deep down, I was scared she wouldn't. Not because she's shallow, but because maybe she's grown into a version of herself that doesn't make room for me anymore. Maybe she'd look at me after I told her and see me through her dad's eyes, too. That night, I drove home in silence. She was already asleep, curled up on her side of the bed. I sat on the edge, watching her breathe. And I knew I couldn't carry this secret much longer. But I also wasn't sure I was ready for what might happen when I let it go. I told her the next night. I don't know what I expected, tears, yelling, maybe even her walking out. But she just sat there in silence as I talked. I told her everything, from the second he texted me to the way I'd been second-guessing every smile, every kiss since. I told her about the envelope. About how I didn't take it, but how it still messed with my head. I told her I wasn't proud of the way I've been acting, that I've been distant, cold. That I didn't know how to talk about it without sounding like I was making excuses. When I finally stopped, she didn't say anything at first. Just sat across from me on the couch, legs tucked under her, fingers tracing the edge of a throw pillow like she was trying to ground herself. Wow. She finally whispered. Okay. That's a lot. I nodded. Yeah. Another beat. Then she looked up at me. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I shrugged. I didn't want to come between you and your dad. And honestly, I was ashamed. Not of what he said, of how much it got to me. She blinked once slowly. Do you think I see you the way he does? That question cut deeper than anything else. I don't know, I said honestly. Sometimes I wonder if you even know how far ahead of me you are. You talk about your world like I'm a guest in it. Like I'm temporary. She got quiet. Then she said very softly, I've never thought of you as temporary. But maybe I've made you feel that way. And I'm sorry. I didn't expect her to own it. I didn't even realize how much I needed to hear her say that. She scooted closer, took my hand. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at him. But I get why you kept it in. I hate that he did this, and I hate that it worked. I hate that it made you question everything good between us. I looked at her then, really looked at her. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was stealing something. I felt like maybe I belonged. But then she added, I need to talk to him. And everything in me tensed again. Are you sure? I asked. What if he denies it? Her face hardened. Then I'll know who he is. But either way, he doesn't get to mess with my life like that. That night, I watched her as she typed out a message to her father. Calm. Clear. No drama. Just, we need to talk. Soon. I didn't know what would come of it. But I finally exhaled. Because for the first time since that lunch, it felt like I wasn't carrying it alone. She met with him 2 days later. She didn't ask me to come, and I didn't offer. I think we both knew this was something she needed to do on her own. She met him at the same restaurant, same table. Because of course he suggested it, like this was just another polite discussion over overpriced risotto. She told me afterward that he barely looked surprised when she brought up the envelope. Just sipped his wine and said something like, I thought he'd be man enough to keep it between us. She said her hands were shaking, but her voice never cracked. She told him she loved me, that she chose me, and if he couldn't respect that, then he needed to step back. That this wasn't just about us anymore. It was about trust. And that trust was broken the second he tried to buy his way into her decisions. He called her emotional. Told her she was making a mistake she'd regret. Tried to guilt her with the old hits. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me, you're throwing your future away. But she didn't back down. She walked out on him. Didn't look back. She told me all of this while we were sitting on our fire escape later that night, wrapped in a blanket, drinking gas station wine like we used to when we first started dating. She was quiet for a while after telling the story, then said, I'm sorry it took me this long to see how deep he cuts. I didn't say anything. Just pulled her closer. That moment should have felt like victory. But all I felt was this low ache, like something important had shifted, and it wasn't going to snap back into place. We tried to go back to normal after that. We really did. But normal had moved. The tension wasn't between us anymore, but around us, like invisible dust in the air we couldn't breathe right. Her family barely spoke to her. Her dad cut off their joint account. Her mom texted her once, asking if she was done being dramatic. And I felt like the reason she lost all of it. Even if she never said it, I knew what she gave up to stand beside me. One night I asked her, Are you sure this is what you want? Really? And she said, You're what I want. The rest will figure itself out. But the look in her eyes said she was tired. So was I. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about drifting apart, you never notice the first few inches. It's quiet, almost invisible, like a faucet with the tiniest leak. You tell yourself it's nothing. Just a bad week. Work stress. A rough patch. But weeks turn into patterns, and one morning you realize you're sitting across from someone who still knows your coffee order, but hasn't really looked at you in days. That's what it became for us. Silent dinners. Her staring at her phone. Me pretending to watch TV while I replayed every conversation from the last 3 months. We weren't fighting, we weren't cold, we were just tired. Of trying. Of pretending. I'd get home from a job, and she'd be there on the couch, laptop open, zoning out. I'd say, Hey, and she'd smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. She'd ask how my day was, but her voice was flat. And I'd answer but leave things out. Not because I was hiding anything, but because I didn't want to burden her with my exhaustion, my doubts, my guilt. The guilt was the worst part. Not because of something I did wrong, but because every day I saw her losing things, family, security, peace, And I was the reason. Her father cut her off. Her mom stopped calling. Her little sister tried to stay neutral, but I saw the way it ate at her. She never once blamed me. Never said, "This is your fault." But when you love someone, you don't need words to feel what they're holding back. She still made me tea when I came home late. Still kissed me on the cheek before bed. But the light in her? It was fading. And no matter how much I tried to be supportive, it felt like I was watching someone burn out in slow motion. I kept telling myself we just needed time. That this would pass. That love was enough. But deep down, I knew we were slipping. One night, I found her sitting on the edge of the bed, just staring at the floor. I asked if she was okay. She nodded, then shook her head. Then said, "I don't know how to be okay right now." I sat beside her, but she didn't lean in. Didn't rest her head on my shoulder like she used to. I felt like I was watching her drift out to sea and didn't have the strength to swim after her. A few days later, I woke up around 2 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. I went for a drive, no plan, just endless roads. I ended up at the old bridge on 47th where we had our second date. It was freezing, but I didn't care. I just stood there, leaning on the railing, staring into the black water, asking myself how we got here. I thought loving her would be enough. I thought choosing her would be the hardest part. But no one tells you how hard it is to stay when everything around you is crumbling. I didn't come home until after sunrise. When I walked in, she was already up, sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of cold tea and that look. That one look where you both already know what's about to happen. "We're not okay, are we?" she asked. I sat down. Shook my head. "I don't think we've been okay for a while." She nodded quietly. "I don't want to resent you. And I don't want you to feel like you have to fix me." My chest felt like it cracked open. "I never wanted to break you." "You didn't," she said. "Life did. The pressure. The expectations. And maybe us trying to hold it together just kept making it worse." There wasn't a fight. No screaming. No dramatic exit. Just long silence. Soft words. And a deep, heartbreaking agreement that the love we had wasn't enough to carry the damage anymore. She moved out the following week. Packed slowly, methodically. Hugged me before she left. Said thank you. And I stood in the doorway long after she was gone, staring at a quiet apartment, and wondering if doing the right thing was supposed to hurt this much. I thought the worst part would be the silence after she left. But it wasn't. It was the sounds that remained. The quiet buzz of the fridge, the creak in the hallway floor, the soft click of the bathroom door I always meant to fix. All those tiny, domestic sounds that used to mean comfort, they felt hollow now. Echoes of a life that had slipped through my hands. I kept everything the same for a while. Her coffee mug stayed in the cabinet. Her books sat untouched on the shelf. Her hair tie still hung on the doorknob. I didn't have the heart to move them. I told myself I just needed time, but really, I was scared to make it real. I went to work. I came home. I ate alone. And I told no one the full story. People asked, coworkers, friends, but I just said, "Yeah, we broke up. Long time coming." Because explaining everything, her dad, the money, the guilt, the slow unraveling, felt like trying to describe a dream you barely remember but can't shake. Noah stopped by one night with beer and zero small talk. "You holding up?" he asked. I nodded. He didn't believe me. "You know," he said after a while, "you can't keep living in the ruins of something just because it meant a lot to you." That landed hard. I looked around, empty cushions, cold kitchen, mail piling up. He was right. I was clinging to wreckage, not building anything new. So the next morning I started. I cleaned out the fridge. I boxed up her things, not out of anger, but because holding on to them started to feel more like penance than love. I messaged her and asked if she wanted them. She said no. "Give them away or donate them," she wrote. "Whatever feels right. I just want you to be okay." That made me cry. Not a breakdown, just quiet tears at the kitchen table while sunlight hit the floor in the exact spot where she used to sit. A week later, I sold the couch. Then the bed. I didn't need all this space. I moved into a smaller place, closer to work, cheaper, fewer memories. And in the process, I started finding pieces of myself I didn't realize I'd lost. I signed up for evening classes at the local trade school, advanced certifications. Something I'd put off forever. I went on runs at night. I called my sister back, the one I hadn't talked to in months. Life didn't get better overnight, but it stopped feeling so damn heavy. One day, out of nowhere, her father called me. I didn't recognize the number at first. I answered without thinking. His voice was calm, controlled. The same tone he used at that restaurant. "I heard she moved out," he said. "I just wanted to make sure she's okay." I could have laughed. But I didn't. I just said, "She's stronger than you give her credit for." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "You should know I never hated you. I just wanted what was best for her." I almost said something cruel. Almost told him to go to hell. But I didn't. I just said, "Funny. That's what I wanted too," and hung up. I don't think I'll hear from him again. But that moment felt like closing a chapter one didn't realize was still open. It's strange what you remember after everything settles. Not the arguments, not the heartbreak, not even the moment she walked out the door. What I remember most is the sound of her laugh echoing down the hallway on a Sunday morning. The way the apartment felt full when she was in it. And then how goddamn empty it felt after. But now, the emptiness doesn't hurt. It just is a part of the space. Like sunlight hitting the floor or the hum of the radiator. I've made peace with it. I've stopped checking her socials. Stopped wondering who she's with. Stopped trying to compare where she is to where I am. I'm here. That's enough. I wake up early now, not because I have to, but because I want to. I make real breakfasts, eggs, toast, the whole thing. I read the news on my phone. I water my plants. Yeah, I have plants now. Who would have thought? I even named one of them. Daryl. Don't ask me why. Life is quieter, but also fuller in weird, unexpected ways. I've got a couple of friends who show up for me. We watch games, drink cheap beer, argue over stupid stats. One of them, Mark, just got divorced. The other, Elijah, is about to be a dad. I don't envy or pity either of them. Everyone's life unfolds at its own messed up rhythm. Work's been solid. I got promoted a few weeks back. Nothing huge, but enough to feel seen. Like maybe all the grind and long hours paid off. My boss told me, "You've changed a lot this year. You carry yourself different." He meant it as a compliment. I took it as one. I didn't move cities. Didn't need to. Turns out, you don't have to run away to start over. You just need to stop carrying what's not yours anymore. I still think about her sometimes. I think I always will. Not in a bitter way. Not in a what-if way either. Just a quiet acknowledgement that we existed, that it mattered, and that it ended. I learned a lot from her. From loving her. From losing her. From surviving what came after. People ask me sometimes if I'm seeing anyone. I say no. Not yet. But I'm open. Not desperate. Not searching. Just open. And that feels good. Like possibility instead of pressure. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm okay. Really okay. Not the fake kind you tell people to shut them up. The kind where you sit alone in your place on a Tuesday night with nothing but yourself, and it feels enough. Maybe even more than enough. I don't know where life's taking me next. But I know this, I'm not waiting around for someone to choose me anymore. I choose myself. Every damn day. Subscribe, hit the like button, and explore more fascinating stories.